opioid pain medication took everything that I had. Nothing mattered more than getting my fix. Knowing that it could have been prevented makes it worse. It just takes one.
Prescription opioids. It only takes a little to lose a lot. Developed by CDC.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services and aired in cooperation with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. It's time to go one-on-one with DP. Coming at you live from the Koppel Chevrolet GMC studios. Here is your host, Derek Pearson. Presented by Beatrice Bakery on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome to a special edition of One-on-One on a Saturday, a snowy Saturday. So, yes, we're live. You guys understand that. 402-464-5685 to go through this thing. Monday, of course, is Martin Luther King's birthday and the celebration that goes around the state, the country, and here in Lincoln. As a part of that, the annual Martin Luther King Youth Rally will take place, and we've brought in, look, he's a builder of spirits, young spirits. He's a director of young spirits. He's a shareholder of responsibility and access and direction of young people. So let's bring in Peter Ferguson. Peter, thank you for doing this morning. I'm excited about what you have been efforting. I know it's a labor of love for you guys to put this thing together. So the least we could do is give you amplification. How are you this morning?
No, doing well. And first off, I just appreciate being offered the opportunity to have the space, and appreciate what you all do. And just like I said, you being a part of our mission, just investing in that. And you'll hear a little bit more about that, but that's just promoting positive youth action. And that's really what this is about. It's not about an old guy up here, but I'm the one who was able to get up and didn't want to have to come back with moms on driving through the weather and what that was going to look like. So,
right.
So they say I have a face for radio. So that's what you get. You get me today.
Look, if you got the face for radio, we're all done. Like we all done. We all need to stop. We all need to go on and get it in. Peter, give folks a little bit of your history.
Yeah, the long and short of it is I'm a product, and I'm always going to give credit to my mother and father, Howard Ferguson and Alita Ferguson. Alita is, I never got to call her Alita and Howard. It was sir and ma'am. My dad was 25 years military, born in Nacogdoches, Texas, so right by Tyler, Texas. So knowing the sports,
Tyler Rose,
without question, and just had some opportunities, but also as a young Black male in a family with a desire to learn, opportunities were somewhat limited. So pursued those in the military. My mom, Alita Ferguson, was born in Compton, California, and a 40-year educator, and she was no joke. All 5-something of her was no joke. And so give credit. So we moved around quite a bit. I was born in Pittsburgh, lived in Washington State, New Mexico, and I claim coming from Arizona because that's where they brought me kicking and screaming from.
Right.
I always say it was like the Black Griswolds. They strapped me on the car and I did not want to come. They were like, we're going to Nebraska. I was like, you're going? I'm a grown man at all at 13, 14, pounding my chest, and then got put in some sort of submission hold.
Right.
And, ended up here, but been here, went to Boster Junior High, and then also went to high school here over at East High School. And then actually had the opportunity. I'm repping today. I know you always wear the Husker stuff, but I had to represent for the NAIA brothers out there. So, went to had the opportunity to go to Hastings College, play for Coach Mike Trader, and honestly went to school there and proud I earned an academic degree. So after that, just got into the nonprofit field, actually worked for radio for a year selling advertising, but my niche was really working with young people. And so had some fortunate mentors in my life. Julie Cervantes Solomon, who at Big Brothers Big Sisters gave me an opportunity to work there, worked at Leadership Lincoln under Dean Finnegan, elevated to vice president, and oversaw their youth programming, but also became involved with the adult side of things as well. And then have been at Lincoln Public Schools for the last 13 years. So have that. Wife, Stephanie Emery, she says she's been raising 2 kids because I have a daughter who's 21 that's at Northwest Missouri State, and uberly proud of both of them. Wife's an educator, and then my daughter is just an individual that, like I said, I can't say enough. Just proud of her, but also has just as much as I've invested in her, she's invested in me. And so that's really the story. Again, I like to say I'm a youth developer. My 3 words are: I try to empower, I try to educate, and I try to engage. And that mirrors the components of the honoring and celebration of the rally and march.
Through all of that, the 3 words that you use somehow end up in your actions, and that not everybody's consistent in that. How do you manage to stay connected to young people in an authentic way?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I think a lot of people will say you're a big scholar, and I don't use the word kid or friends or kiddo, and so you'll hear me. I try not to, but they're having the opportunity and doing some things that I did, but I didn't even realize were there. And I don't blame parents. I don't blame educators. I honestly, some of those things were right in front of me, and I just didn't, grasp them. And so I'll be straightforward, especially for our Black and Brown scholars, which I represent. I want them to tap into everything possible. I think I get empowered every day by a young person. And I think sometimes we wait for individuals to be elders, and I say elders, but seasoned, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I want scholars to be so empowered that at 2nd grade, 3rd grade, or 4th grade, they believe they can have their name on a school building. We can get educated every day. I think in this last week, some of the moments that I'm taking away the most, that I'm just like, whoa, it came from an 11-year-old. It came from an 11-year-old. And that's not just being around them. Like, you just have to listen. And I think engaging, I think that's something that I get annoyed as much as the next person. Really. I mean, people don't understand. I am an introvert. I like my alone time. I will go to movies by myself. That was the thing that my wife was just like, I can't believe, like, they're like, he likes being alone. Like, he is fine doing stuff on his own. But I feel the importance is, and the thing that we miss is we lack the time of engaging individuals. And you're masterful at that. You engaged me at the Inspire Awards or event that was honoring, females and women within this community. And the fact that if you don't take that opportunity to step to somebody, hand them your business card, and just say, hey, how are you doing? Then you're going to miss opportunities. And Dr. King and Congressman Late Lewis and Dr. Leola Bullock and Dr. Jake Kirkland, I've always had individuals in my life who've taken the time to engage me. And I feel like that's a responsibility that I have to give back. And it's not just with young people. It's amazing how many people can do that with adults. And then you'll ask them, hey, can you come present with these young people, share this information? And they freak out. They're like, you'll get the email and, oh, is the presentation okay? I haven't done this in so long. And I'm like, what are you afraid? Like, what are you afraid of? Like, and people are like, well, it's so natural for you. No, I'm just as uncomfortable. And I say stupid stuff just like the next person. And those individuals, those young people, if they were here today, that's probably why I told them the wrong time. No, but they'll call you. They'll call you on it. They'll call you on it. Like, Pete, please don't. Like, that didn't make any sense. But they're engaged in a way that is so special and is so fulfilling. And I'm not perfect at it. People say, well, you're modeling it. I'm not perfect at it, but it's something that I really, truly want to strive to be proficient at.
I brought that up because you've managed to take this event. And again, it's an annual event. Usually it's a rally. There's a march that's attached to it this year, but due to circumstance, that won't happen. It'll be all virtual. But to get young people to move together in a positive direction for anything requires mastery. And you've managed to get this group of young people to go,
right,
like to participate and work. So let's go through the process.
Right.
Talk about the rally itself and its history. Where does its beginnings and what you want it to be going forward?
Well, the foundation you mentioned earlier, the late Dr. Leola Bullock, all the credit has to go to her. And if you don't know who she is, you can get on the Journal Star, just type in her name and just take a moment. I mean, as we talk about Reverend Dr. King, there are so many things. And I have to acknowledge today is his actual birthday.
Yep,
so he's 93 years old today. So January 15th is his actual birthday. The third Monday is when we honor and celebrate it. But Dr. Leola Bullock was a local civil rights and shero, not just a hero, she was a shero.
Okay.
And to her credit, she understood that there was going to be a time that she wasn't going to be around, that my mom, Mrs. Ferguson, wasn't going to be around. Colonel Paul Adams, who was a Tuskegee Airman that worked in the schools here in Lincoln Public Schools, and was not going to be around. And so we talk about steps, and it's not just who are going to take those next steps, but who can we walk together with to ensure that Dr. King's dreams, and it's important, it's not just a dream. You will hear that speech played over and over again in classrooms during the day of, and this, that, and the other. He didn't just have one dream. There were dreams that he and others had, his parents had for him, he had for his children. And so she just, she put that call out. And if they affectionately call Mama Bullock. Mama Bullock puts a call out, you heed that call. And it wasn't a text message. So those kids, it wasn't on TikTok. It wasn't Instagram.
Hey.
It was, you're in church and we're going to do this and make it happen. So she had individuals like Dr. Jake Kirkland, Jr., who, again, used to work at the university, is phenomenal, been a mentor of mine. Mrs. Mays, Mrs. Mays, her son, Brian Mays, and I went to high school together. And Mrs. Stokes' son is Eric Stokes, who played for the Huskers, a couple of championship runs. And they came together and they had connections. Mrs. Mays and Mrs. Stokes worked in schools, and they started gathering young people and put this foundation, as Dr. King talked about, a blueprint, had this blueprint and started putting, a solid, sound blueprint together. And they met at Newman Church over there by the Malone Center weekly. Didn't have, a bunch of resources, but they put pieces together. They were saying, on that day, they were going to go to the county city building and just, do speeches. Maybe somebody was going to sing. Johansi Christie, as I recall, as I was told, because I was still in college, gave the "I Have a Dream" speech, and he's now the city attorney. Just crushed it. And so from that, every year scholars came together, and I remember it was about the fourth year. I was just graduating from college. I just happened on the meeting, so I would come and assist. And I remember, after that, they took me to lunch at TGI Fridays right over here. It's no longer, I think it may have been right in this spot. And they duped me. And I remember they took a box, put it up on the table, and they said, "It's yours. It's yours. That's it. It's yours." And I was like, "What's it?" And it was the box with all the flyers and folders of the rally and march. And when your seasoned elders tell you something is yours, I was honored in a way. I was scared in a way. But I was thankful and appreciative that they would trust me with facilitating. So for the last 23 years, I've been the adult advisor for the rally. And it started in August. It's become year round, but August, October, scholars, we start meeting on Sundays. It's open to anybody. It's a community experience. We say anybody can do an event, but we want to make sure it's an experience for individuals, so it lasts past that day. And we've had individuals as young as first grade on up to high school that come and participate. And it's scholars from Lincoln Public Schools. We've had individuals from Norris, Pius, Raymond Central. This year we have a young lady that's singing from Omaha Central. Really wanted it to provide a space that if it's not offered for you within your community, we have no bounds. We want you to come. And they meet regularly from 6 to 8. We do educational pieces. We learn about the Birmingham Children's March, the importance that any movement that started, that young people are a part of that. And we go through that process, and then we start developing some of the parts. There's things that come to my mind maybe in June or January after the rally that we start, maybe putting forward and seeing if that's theirs, if that's something they would be interested in. But it's a wholly developed youth rally in March. And so they get ultimate say in that content, the structure. I do the massaging. I'm making sure the programming side of things. It's kind of like what my coach said. I get the decisions and things that don't really matter.
Through all of that, where are you finding these exceptional young people?
It's a variety. I think at the beginning, I'm obviously working with young people. And so there are times, I remember seeing an individual like Asia Fleming, and we did just a friendly basketball game with her in 3rd grade. And this young lady, just the way she carried herself on the floor, I just said, man, there's something special about this is going to be out of the park. And so asked her, and I remember at 4th grade, she gave the keynote. And to this day, it's probably one of the top 5. I mean, standing ovation as a 4th grader. And you look at, she did not look like a 4th grader. As a 4th grader, brought the house down. There's other individuals where you look at Trey Anderson. Mom was like, oh, I would love my son to be involved. Boom. There's Brittany Hodges. Again, you ask how I find them. I get the opportunity to be around young people. So I do see different sparks, different talents. And it's not just about if they're able to speak. It's more about, some of those other things. How are they empowering individuals? Do they need to be empowered? Are they, did they educate me in some way? Are they engaging? And again, it's not that they're the most outgoing individuals. We have some of the most introverted people that you'll ever meet. But this is something that they're invested in. And I don't need them to know everything about the civil rights movement or Dr. King. They just have to have an interest in this. And sometimes it's just an interest in, okay, we have pizza and we have cookies. But after 3 or 4 weeks, to be honest, when you get them in here, they're articulating about, how, Sylvia Mendez impacted the civil rights movement in California.
Do you find yourself being the bridge to that information, like the connector of the people who have been a part of this program, been a part of this march, this rally, and sharing why it's important to these young people? Because they will carry it forward.
Yeah, I think, one of the answers, sometimes we have peers recommend, say, hey, can this person be a part of the rally? And that's like, that does your heart well. Or they say, I came and I watched and I just I wanted to be a part of this. And so, as far as being the bridge, there's so many people. Like I think about an Eva Soul, I think about an Emily Koopman, I think about my daughter who sat at the table. As long as they're at the table, my daughter did it for 9-10 years. As long as they're at the table, they serve as that connector as well. It can't just be Pete. It can't just be Dr. Kirkland. It has to be, it might be a classroom teacher. Bobby Ehrlich over at Belmont Elementary with her 5th grade class. She serves as a connector. We need a Sherilyn Bullock serves as a connector.
Is it boundaried by Lincoln? Do you connect to others, even shared references?
Yeah, I think we make sure that individuals understand that, Lincoln's our core, but we've talked about, situations in Bellevue. They need to know about the Omaha riots. They need to understand that Dr. King did not just speak in Selma. He spoke in Wisconsin. He spoke here in Lincoln, Nebraska at Pershing Auditorium.
See, I do want that's the linchpin. We're talking to Peter Ferguson, and Monday's youth rally, and we'll go deeper into what the rally is going to be. But the historical storytelling is mandatory. It's mandatory to share Lincoln's connection to civil rights, Martin Luther King himself. Please tell the story. You were telling us before the show that, he was here. There are people here that were connected to it. Please share that story.
Yeah, and if you don't know it, it's part of it. I think it's the thing that we should have every one of our newscasts talk about that day of. But he came and he spoke at Pershing Auditorium. And Pershing obviously is in the news. Going to be a library or a skating rink or your next home, your condominium, whatever it might be. But when he came, Albert Maxey, who is a local artist here, was a longtime police officer. was actually at that time was the only Black police officer on the force. And to go back a little bit for Mr. Maxey's story, which is extremely powerful, he played basketball at the University of Nebraska. Before that, he was he played with Oscar Robertson. So I know your listener base is
Hoosier story is the one
you're gonna lose your sports card if you do not know who Oscar Robertson is. And he played with Oscar Robertson, and actually Mr. Maxey was on the first team of all Black athletes that won a high school state championship in Indiana. And so he came here, played basketball for Nebraska, and became a police officer. Dr. King came. Dr. King made the request and said, I want, for my safety, my trust, I want a Black officer, in my detail. Well, LPD only had one, and it was Mr. Maxey. So Mr. Maxey, for Dr. King's time, was Dr. King's security detail. And he speaks to the conversations he had, and I'm not going to do it justice, and so I won't even try. But to understand Mr. Maxey, who's down in the Haymarket, Burkholder Project, does art, a phenomenal individual, is part of that. Like, people think this was 200 years ago. Like, that wasn't that long ago. And you have somebody here that you could sit and have a conversation with, and he could tell you what Dr. King sounded like. He could tell you how he walked. He could tell you who was around him. That's powerful, but that's not going to be the case for very much longer. So I think people think it's Selma, and people think it's, Alabama and Memphis and all the things they see on the movies, and it happens in LA. But the bottom line is, if you didn't realize in the last 2 years on our streets that it's about Lincoln, Nebraska, it was about Lincoln, Nebraska in 1960.
Important enough that Martin Luther King came here to present.
Exactly.
To be a presence here.
Exactly.
There wasn't, just let that marinate for a second. As people think about Lincoln, Nebraska, that the leadership, the civil rights leadership, just deemed that Lincoln, Nebraska not only was worthy, but it was necessary for that visit and that presence to be. That's pretty remarkable.
If you look at signs, we had signs that said colored restrooms. We had segregation. We had Jim Crow. We had a very strong presence in this state of the Ku Klux Klan. And in Lincoln, we had a presence of the Ku Klux Klan. We had racial housing ordinance on Sheridan Boulevard. So again, we had racism. We had segregation. We still experience it, but it's really tough sometimes for individuals like, man, it's the good life and this, that, and the other. And there are a lot of phenomenal things about Nebraska. There are a lot of phenomenal things. But we have to be real truthful when we have that conversation with our scholars, and we have that conversation amongst all of us, is that there are individuals with privilege. There are individuals that are not experiencing the life in a good way.
I will share this. I am old enough to have been, I grew up just outside of Washington, D.C., in Arlington, Virginia. And when you see, as you mentioned, Hoosiers as being a reference, right? So think back to Remember the Titans.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Coach Boone.
So remember that's my hometown. And so as that was happening in 1970, 1971, I was an elementary student at an all-Black elementary school who there were people that came to my house because they had done testing and said, we need to choose these alpha students who are going to be put into this busing program, this brand new busing program. So imagine at age 8 being sent on a bus to the opposite side of town, to a predominantly, well, at the time it was an all-white school. And that morning, the very first morning, there were 6 kids who got on the bus in the dark, rode to the other side of the county. When I arrived at my school, And to give you some point of reference, Stonewall Jackson Elementary.
Wow. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Look the name up.
Right.
Yeah.
That there was a collection of parents waiting for me with my name on signs that they didn't know me. They didn't know me. So to go through busing at that level, in that space, and then to have it spoken of with, the I Have a Dream speech. Well, one of the first school trips that we took was to that space, to go and stand where the speech was given so that we understood why the speech was given. What you're doing now is connecting people to the past in a way that's real to them.
Right.
And that's how the story will be told going forward. Like, that's the beautiful part of this thing. We'll throw it a break. Again, a special edition of One-on-One. Peter Ferguson is my guest. Again, the rally is Monday. We'll talk more about the rally, but we will continually talk about the mission and the purpose and the reason behind all of this. We will do that on 93.7 The Ticket.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store. You're listening to One-on-One with DP on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Nebraska Army National Guard. Aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association at this station.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job,
not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? Or a 14-year-old girl who signs up to every after-school activity, not to make friends, but just to get something to eat? Or a retiree who fell ill and had to choose
between getting medicine or groceries.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
If you're worried your friend may be struggling, remember, you don't have to be there to be there.
You can say, how are you, or get a fake tattoo. You can ask with an app if it works for you. You can write them a text or knit them a sweater. If you can't be together, you can write them a letter. Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking. You could chat on the game, kick off your flip-flops. You can ask on your couch while you binge watch. However you do it, you gotta ask a friend. And if they don't share, you can ask again. Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking.
Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the JED Foundation.
If you talk and they will hear you.
Why are we getting killed like this?
Kyle's not here. Got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Harsh.
Hey, he knew not to drink. We've made that clear to all of our kids, right?
No, not really.
Bill, if we don't tell them what we expect and why they shouldn't drink, how are they going to know?
Sponsored by SAMHSA and Nebraska DHHS. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You're listening to One on One with DP. Sponsored by Beatrice Bakery on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to a special one-on-one with Peter Ferguson, who is, again, in leadership of the Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally that will take place Monday. If you would give the folks a little bit of detail behind what the rally actually is. There won't actually be a march this year because of situation and circumstance. But it will be virtual and folks will be able to follow this thing. So let's go through one, tell them the history behind it and what this thing is actually going to be.
Right. Well, this is our 27th year. So it's our 27th annual Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally and March. And you will hear us say the whole thing because he was a man of faith. And we understand that separation between church and state, but he was a man who had faith in that dreams and that there was going to be equity, there was going to be justice, there was going to be civility and kindness. And in order to do that, you have to have faith in some sense of it. He was a doctor, and so he achieved his education at 15. He went to college. And so we honor that. And then his name is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., not Martin Luther, because that's his dad. Right. And his original name was Michael. So again, sorry about dropping that.
All that stuff is in there.
But our scholars say that. And so the history has been, this will be the 27th year. What we did for the first 25, except for 1 year, is we had a pre-rally at some place on the university campus. They've been a tremendous partner. The Office of Diversity, Dr. Barker and Dr. Friday, and the TRIO department, Joe Mendoza-Gorham, has allowed us space. And that used to be at the Cultural Center where Wendy's is, and now the Student Union. We use that, and it was just a time to get everybody just excited. It's a celebratory time. It was great for our younger kids to enjoy and engage and be empowered.
To get on campus.
And honestly, and it was also to get on to get on a college campus. I will say, and you brought up a good point, everything is intentional that goes along with the rally and march. Nothing is left for chance. And so we had high schools come in and do shows and just paint faces. Unfortunately, that had to cease in the last couple years. And then we would march and it grew from about 50, and it was cold. It was like today. I think every year we did it except for 1 year that it iced over, that we had to cancel. And we would march to the state capitol. And the significance of that was just being seen in the city of Lincoln. And you would see, you'd see Black folks, white folks, Hispanics, Asian, preschool scholars, you'd see elderly, and that symbolism of walking from, 9:45 to 10:15 to the state capitol was those pictures to me, chanting and just talking and networking and with somebody and seeing people out there that you never, what are you doing out here?
You sent the links, and I went way down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
Right. I went way down the rabbit hole. My grandmother taught me this thing, that in pictures, don't get lost in the optics.
Right.
Look in the eyes of the people in the picture.
Yes.
And that's when I knew how deep it was, because it was important.
Yes.
Like the one of your words, empowering, the empowerment of young people to see that they're not alone in a thing, that there are people out there trying to do right and try to be connected. And I love the fact that you use the hashtag walk together.
Yeah.
Like that's important. And that's the big part of the pictures. Folks, if you get a chance to go online and find those, please do so. It will blow your mind.
Well, and we have a listing of all the past rallies, but you're correct. Like that march was just such a critical part to replicate it. And, like I said, it was cold, but we'd get to the Capitol, and then we'd be in the Warner Chamber, and we have to thank, Chuck Hubka and the senators over the years who have allowed us, because we have to get a sponsor to use the space,
Mm-hmm.
and never had an issue. And it was significant for our scholars, one, because it was a place that a lot of them had never been. And that just, when
That's
you think
the
about,
empowerment.
yeah, you just,
That this belongs.
education. But
This is ours too.
Yes.
Like
yes.
to have
yes.
young people learn early and to see themselves in those spaces.
Mhm.
Like that's when you talk about being on campus at the university, being in those government buildings, not just as a spectator, but as a participant.
Yes.
Like that part is missed, that these young people, this is how you, when you say empowerment, it is literally giving the gift of connection, where people know that they belong.
Yes.
They're part of this thing, and they can have an impact.
Well, and like you said, it is our place for each and every, not just for some. And we would be in the Warner Chamber and we would fill that place up. And I mean, and I don't mean fill it up with people. That was the easy part. But they would fill your soul. I have the memories of there. Is just like I said, Asia to Chantal of Food, to Eva Soul, to Brittany, to Jay Bierman. I mean, Jacob Absalon, Trey. I can go down the list. Ashton Combs. I mean, doing some work. And those of you listening, I mean, just doing some work up there on stage, and seeing adults and just being moved. And that's, I can think of so many things, but I'll be perfectly honest. That was one of the last places my mom was able to be when she saw my daughter, before, she had to get care for Alzheimer's, and watching her listen to my daughter speak up there and say some words about being Black and being beautiful, and just about seeing and hoping that some of those dreams and those steps that my mom took would be realized, and to see a tear come down her eye, to me, well, that place will always hold a special place in my heart, because that's what this does for individuals. It's for 4 to 90 years old, but for some individuals, it's a story. For other individuals sitting out there and listening and be watching Monday, it's their life.
Well, that's again, that's what we were talking during the break, that I'm a part of that I'm old enough to be a part of the folks the original Alpha student project of kids being bused across America. And it started just outside of DC because they didn't want to do it in DC.
Right.
They want to do it in Virginia, where you could cross over. And I was a college baseball player, and early 1980, we would take our tour down south and go play ball. We would go to Georgia, we'd go to Florida State,
Right.
we'd go to, we'd ended up in Georgia and Georgia Tech. And this is when the Atlanta killings were going on, where little Black kids were being snatched and killed. And even as teenagers, we were told, there were 2 black players on the team, and we were told that we couldn't open the door of the hotel without our secret passcode being whispered first. Like everybody else could go out and go to restaurants and do what but we had to sit in a room, watch TV. They brought us food, but the only way they could bring us food was you had to knock at the door. It was 4 knocks.
Wow.
And you had to give the word Jaguar, and that lets you know that it was somebody that was friendly to you. So it's my life. Like I'm old enough. I was alive during the I Have a Dream speech. That's right in my back door.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to Monday, because it's going to be young people acknowledging what we were versus what we want to be.
Right.
Like that's the bridge. This rally gives an opportunity for us to share together.
Right.
And that's what I'm looking forward to. So with the virtual version of this, what can people expect on Monday?
Yeah, so Monday, we are having everything, like you said, virtual. It's available. You can go to our website, mlkyouthrally.com. That's mlkyouthrally.com. There'll be a button on there. You can read to it'll have links. There'll be a button that you can just push, and it'll take you directly to the YouTube or the site to watch it. But it's going to be very similar to what we've done in the past. So it's going to actually be a hybrid of some live and some tape. But starting at 9:30, we're going to do our pre-rally. So 9:30 to 10 is just going to be a time. Just, get your coffee, get your hot cocoa, gather the family around, and just, we want you just to enjoy. There'll be some music, and this will be pre-packaged mostly. But it'll be some music, some educational videos, a great opportunity, especially for that family to kind of sit together and just kind of get in the mind for the content that's going to happen at the call to action program. At 10 o'clock will be our call to action program. That's the program that traditionally happened at the Capitol. And that's going to be our scholars who have prepared their pieces through the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 months, and are just, it's a mix of unique poetry, adaptations of different components that some of you will be familiar with. When you start hearing it, you'll be like, man, I recognize that. Oh, I like that spin. We have that young lady singing from Omaha Central, Carrie Posey, who's just, man, she's I'm just gonna say right now, the Aretha Franklin of our time. She's gonna do something. We'll have a group of Belmont scholars, which have traditionally come and performed, that individuals have come to look forward to. They're actually going to be doing a story and bringing a children's book to life, a picture book, which I'm gonna give you a copy of. It's a sneak peek, but don't be releasing it. But I'm gonna give you a copy of it.
It'll stay covered till Tuesday. Stay covered till Tuesday.
Yeah, but they will do that. We've got a couple other scholars that are going to, Rick, Bo, and Allah are going to, they're going to challenge you. They're going to challenge you with something that they're going to say. And when are they going to have? I'm just going to say, when are they going to have a bathroom in this community? And so that gives you a little prelude to it.
Can I want to share the story because it took me to another place. So my mother-in-law, God bless her, like she's the most loving woman you can imagine. But through our relationship over time, she has shared some of the things in her life, and she's very curious about why we're not as connected as we should be. But as a younger woman, she wrote her own story, which is "Where is my water fountain?" Now,
okay, yes,
right. Like, lock that in for a second. That here's this woman going through her space and recognizing that, well, wait a minute, I don't have that. For the good and the bad, I don't have that. And so that togetherness, her one being that person to write it, but for her to share that with me, right?
Wow.
My white mother-in-law shared this thing with her black son-in-law to say, you know what? I acknowledge that this thing is here. And it meant the world, because now we can have some authentic conversations.
That's honestly, that's what, when you talked about that authentic conversation, that's what the rally and march is intended to do. And so that content that you're going to see, we want you to watch it with your children. It is going to be, like I said, empower.
It's family friendly,
but it's going to also engage, but it's also going to, have some content that afterwards we want you to say, where were you empowered? Where were you educated? How will you engage? And it's a mix. So we will have some recorded pieces, but just for the time flow and just making sure from transition time. But every one of our scholars is going to speak. We're thankful again to the university, RAF by Polytech, for helping, underwrite some things. I do have to give a shout out to Hastings College, because this doesn't happen in isolation. We don't have a budget, and so people have stepped up to support. But what you will see during that 10 to 11 piece is young people giving of themselves. They will touch your soul. And I tell people this: if you're not moved by it, and Aaron Davis, who's on your station, Aaron, AD does his things, but he says this, I'm gonna give him credit for it. He said there's a difference between motivation and inspiration. Motivation leaves the room once you do. Inspiration stays long after you're gone. And we originally started, when I got this, to just be somebody who motivated that day and everybody's like pat you on the head. We want you in February, in June, and August thinking about some of the things these scholars said, because if we don't, then all we're doing is we're going back and we have to start that fire over again. And the power of Dr. King and those who supported, but those who also invested in him, and so many other individuals, they're not people that were motivated. Nobody needs a motivational speaker. there's a lot of motivational speakers out there. If you can find somebody that inspires you, people like Keith L. Brown, people like yourself, I mean, those are individuals that we need. And that's what these young people strive. They say it's not perfect if we don't hear about ourselves and hear about our message in June.
I think what I'm getting excited about is that I know in these spaces, a challenge will be issued. I'm curious to find out what that challenge will be. We'll talk about that when we come back to One-on-One.
Watch live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. You're listening to One-on-One with DP on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
And now more Straight Talk from Straight Talk. The big wireless companies say they're the only way to get the best coverage.
Because they've got like a cajillion cell towers?
Something like that. But Straight Talk Wireless runs on those same towers, so you get the same great networks for up to 50% less.
I wonder if they're counting that one in Kickapoo, Kansas.
Oh boy. Switch today and get our unlimited plan for just $45 a month with 25 gigs at high speeds and no contract. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise.
Savings may vary. See straighttalk.com.
Allstate now has deeper savings, and deeper savings require deep thoughts and a deep voice, like mine. Save for being a new customer. Save more for adding DriveWise, and save even more for driving safely. Visit allstate.com or contact your local agent for a quote today. As someone once said, saving today is money tomorrow. That's deep.
Not available in every state. New customer savings based on early signing discount. DriveWise is an optional feature. Savings vary based on how you buy. Subject to terms and conditions. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People City Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
The Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council present the story of Tom and Levi.
Tom is the smartest man I know. He's been a professor at 2 major universities, been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, he told me that he was having problems in his classes. I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. And he was telling them that he was doing it as a favor to them. But I think in reality, he just wanted to get out of there. I was really starting to worry because I saw something was wrong.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me, and my love for him was just immense.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Back to One-on-One with DP, presented by Beatrice Bakery on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Appropriate.
Without question. I was going to do that or Stevie Wonder, Happy Birthday.
Right. And thanks for reminding me, because I need to load that in for Monday.
Yeah, okay.
I need to load that in for Monday. I want to read the mission of this with Peter Ferguson, the Dr. Martin Luther King Youth Rally, the annual Dr. Martin Luther King Youth Rally, right? Like I
that's all right. The scholars will be proficient in it for you.
Well, look. I'm not too old to be taught.
That's all.
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Youth Rally in March seeks to promote the lives and dreams of the late King Jr. and Dr. Leola Bullock through positive youth action. A part of what's been achieved so far, and just wrap your brain around it for a second, bringing together over 2,000 people to walk together towards kindness, civility, justice, and equity. Not equality, equity. There is a difference. Over 6,000 scholars, planning committee, alumni, including but not limited to Lincoln Public Schools, Waverly, Raymond, Norris, Omaha, and Pius X. Lincoln Public Schools Board of Education recognition to inspire future business leader, Lincoln Journal Star Award winners, Jaden Ferguson, who you mentioned earlier, and is it Asia?
Asia, yes.
Asia Fleming, also the State of Nebraska MLK Award. Portraits of a Movement Graphic Art Community Project in honor of the 20th Youth Rally in March anniversary. And this rally will be viewed across the United States, Mexico, Sudan, and England. This is not just a local thing that's happening. This thing has purpose, it has legs, it has voice, and most importantly, it has heart. Through all of this, a challenge to the people of Lincoln is required. What will said challenge be? In your mind, what should the challenge be? What should these young people inspire and motivate both the people in this community with? What is the ask?
I think, and I wish I'm saying it on their behalf, but it goes with our theme. It says the steps, it's up to us. And we have had a lot of conversations in our meetings, in our engagements of just what does your piece do? How does it empower? How does it educate? How does it engage? And the ask to Lincoln or to anybody that's going to be touched by them, whether it's through the showing of this rally, whether it's through their involvement in something else, whether it's through their professional self, is that they take a step. And Dr. King said in his blueprint, if you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving. And their ask is, and I'm just going to say their ask, not mine, but their ask is that we keep moving. And we stop at times. And as adults, there's people like, oh, last year you could have stopped. Like, you couldn't have it in person. This year, we originally were going to have individuals. And then even within the last week, we've had to shift. After I get done here, we've got to do a couple things to tweak to make it work. And the thing is, we're going to continue to take steps. And we've crawled at times. But the bottom line is they're going to ask you to keep moving and move in a direction that is towards civility towards each and every person. Not just all, because sometimes all under the umbrella of all people get missed. Okay? So if you look at the categories and you have to sign your census form or whatever, so if you don't fall within a certain category, you have to just check a box or decide not to. And so towards civility, they're going to ask you to take steps towards kindness and not just be kind, but be twice as kind, as Icky Johnson said. Be twice as kind. Because some people have somebody that's kind, but some of us sometimes need a little bit more. And so you're going to need to be twice as kind. And then I think take steps towards justice. And what does that look like? And the fact that the attorney or the judge, it's escaping my name right now, in the recent trial said, take a minute in the Ahmaud Arbery case. And I have to wonder what the fear and what was going through, that young man's mind during that minute. Man, that was powerful. And so, we don't need the original hashtag, which was Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
it's taken time for and taken a step towards ensuring there's justice and not like we've been the last 3, 4, and it's been more than those years, but paying attention and waiting for a verdict. And when you're saying like everything's there, everything is put forward, and there's no way that can be not guilty, and it's not guilty. And then a step toward equity, and it's not equality, it's a step toward equity. And that's not something that's popular, and people are like, oh, Pete, you're indoctrinating young people and this, that, and yeah. They have been talking about this. They are, and they're not even just talking about it, but they're experiencing it. And you brought it up. It's like, why on a sports show are you having this conversation and making things difficult and this, and bringing this up and this, that, and the other? The bottom line is we just had the conversation about Earl Lloyd. There was a step that he took, but steps others took to invest in him, needing to be kind. The first Black NBA basketball player, George Flippin at the University of Nebraska. Like that's the challenge. That's what they're going to put out in all aspects.
I'd love for them to sell a George Flippin jersey.
Right here. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's 2 buys right there. There are a couple of things. One, if you would please let the folks know how they can follow this event. What sites do they need to go to?
Most definitely on Twitter. You can go to at mrally93 at mrally93 on Twitter. Our website again, where you can get all the information, it's mlkyouthrally.com. mlkyouthrally.com. That will really give you everything, all the links to watch it. You can go to the City TV website. It'll be on starting at 9:30 on their YouTube channel. And so I would say, if you get lost, just go to mlkyouthrally.com or just follow our Facebook page as well. We will just be lambasting that with the links and the information.
Peter Ferguson, thank you for your time, your energy, your love, your direction. All of that defined together as leadership, and it is appreciated. I'll share this for folks who do not know how to engage. The rules of Love Prince is simple. Love out loud. When in doubt, love first. Love last. And in between, love more. You guys enjoy your weekend. Follow the rally. Go Big Red.